Hello and welcome back to the FPL Tom preview stream. We are back in our regular Wednesday 7 o'clock slot and should be for the remainder of the season. As always, I am joined by my good friend and, well, I think you've now cemented yourself as the key co-host of this preview stream. Jake, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I'm honoured that that's been given my title from you. I really appreciate it. I've
I
just
mean,
finally myself come onto the YouTube stream watching myself back, and I'm just scranning a fat chocolate biscuit.
I
Really
mean,
set up to the time off work, aren't I?
yeah. But you've got that title. I don't think through kind of rank, to be honest, or kind of any skill within the game.
No, not in the slightest.
No. I feel it's more you're here for the vibes, really. You
Yeah,
know.
well, I just offer another opinion, and also I do feel like I would say like a good like 6 times out of 10. There's something good that comes up my mouth. It's just a shame it's not 9 times out of 10, which is what you probably like.
I'll take the 6 out of 10, lad. I'll take the 6 out of 10. I mean, Big Willie was a solid one, wasn't he? A few game
He
weeks ago.
was, he was. I think he could have gone a little bit better. But yeah, I don't think. I think I peaked when I brought Anwar Al Ghazi in all those years ago.
That's when I knew. That's when I knew. All those years back, I went, "This is the guy I'm gonna do an FPL stream with eventually." You can't
He's
be
one
bringing in players like that and getting away with it.
one for the future, but nah, I peaked, and it's just been downhill ever since. But I'm still here to tell the tale.
It's all right, lad. We're going to get you cooking soon-ish. Obviously, we do have a lot to talk about in today's stream. We've obviously got bed shitter of the week. We're going to talk about double game week 28. We're going to review our teams from game week 23 and look at our transfer plans ahead of game week 24. We're also going to be covering the best players to buy in preparation of double game week 25 and, of course, Luton, because now they're a thing and we're going to talk about them as well. But as always, we are going to start off with the best competition out there. It's more prestigious than the Ballon d'Or these days. Of course, it is Bed Shitter of the Week. This is for a player who has absolutely stunk the sheets up with a terrible performance in game week 23. Quite a few contenders this week, especially in the defensive area. Jake, I'm going to pan to you first. Who is your nomination for Bed Shitter of the Week?
Well, I feel like you have the tendency to go for the more broad option, and you take into account everyone's fantasy week.
Yeah.
Because mine is actually not going to be either of the men that you've got on the screen. Mine's actually going to be someone that's very much a selfish option, but has let me down in consecutive weeks with minus point hauls. So I'm going to go for Disassi. And I just feel like I think I brought him in around the time when you had maybe two or even three Chelsea players because their run looked really, really good. And I think in their day they did score a good amount of goals. And I think Cole Palmer's been fantastic for anyone that's had them in their team. But defensively, they have been woeful. They've not managed a clean sheet they've not managed clean sheet consistency, that's for sure. And I think I just hoped maybe for more of an attacking haul from some of the defensive aspects. So I went for Disassi. I don't think it could have gone much better for anyone else, to be honest. But to get minus points in both consecutive weeks, especially when you've got them at home to Wolves, you think they're going to bounce back. Every single time Chelsea have a green fixture, I'm just like, okay, this will be the time that they bounce back. I think I've been defending them for a few weeks now, saying that they are hot and cold, and you cannot decide which type of Chelsea are going to turn up. Whereas now I just feel like they're appalling. So yeah, I'm going to have to go for Disassi. I know his own goal was a little bit unfortunate, but I just feel like the fact that it's the second week running, I'm really, really debating why I've got a Chelsea man in my team that's not simply Cole Palmer. I feel like other than Cole Palmer, Chelsea players should be banned from your team for now.
Yeah, definitely agree with that one. How am I spelling Diassi, by the way? I've never actually had to spell his name out.
It's Disassi,
So,
Disasi,
so D-I-S... What was the next bit?
ASI.
A-S-I.
Yeah, really, really caught you off guard with that one, didn't I?
Yeah, you really did. Thanks for that one, mate. I'm sure that'll get plenty of votes for the other 2 owners in the whole FPL community that do own him. We will answer some of your guys' questions a little bit later on, so do keep them coming through. Matthew, we're doing good. I hope you're doing good as well. We will come on, like I said, to your guys' questions, so do get them in. We will answer them at some point throughout the stream. I'm going to go for Ezri Konsa. A little bit selfish, I know. I think we're probably going for the selfish picks this week. But, you know, Sheffield United, I was expecting a clean sheet. The fact that Villa had kept a clean sheet, I actually wasn't watching the games or like kind of keeping tabs on what was happening in the Villa game. I was kind of doing other stuff at the time. Looked at the full-time result and was like, oh, great. Ezri Konsa clean sheet. Went to fantasy and he was stuck on 1. So I was like, oh, okay, you know what? Maybe like the game's just not updated or it's not refreshed. But I was like, well, Watkins' points are here. Then I went on to FOTMob, checked that he came off in the 59th minute. I was raging, absolutely fuming. Like, he has probably been one of the biggest trolls since I've brought him in, picking up 1s and 2s. This was the week I was like, he's going to get me a clean sheet, happy days, easy. And I thought he had. But no. Brother just went, you know what, I'm just going to absolutely shaft you up the arse. And now it looks like he's out for 3 to 4 weeks as well. Just to add that little bit more misery on top of my day, to be honest. But yeah, Konza's going to be my bed shirt of the week. So
yeah, fair enough. I was going to try and be devil's advocate and play the Amory blame, but if he's injured himself, then he's only got himself to blame for being in this running.
Exactly. I think there was quite a lot of defender candidates this week as well. Trent Alexander-Arnold with another 1-pointer, pretty poor performance to go with it. He came off as well prior to 60 minutes, so again, didn't get another point. Gabriel with his own goal as well, pretty honky, finished on -1. Quite a lot of contenders this week, but we've gone for Diassi and Konsa, who probably have a combined ownership of about 7%, but you know.
I think it's just the 2 of us, to be honest. No, I think quite a few people will have had Konsa because he's been an ever present in that back line and he's been playing pretty much right back, hasn't he, sometimes?
Yeah.
So there's been that chance of maybe the odd assist. I don't know how much he's accelerated in the attacking options, but yeah, he's been someone that you can rely on. I've had Diego Carlos, who has been the complete opposite of that and has hardly played. But fortunately, he did play, so I don't have any complaints there. Although I did check, I wasn't watching the game. I checked the game on the phone. I saw it was 6-1, so I just accepted that he ballsed it up. So thank God for VAR.
Hey, you can't beat it. Right, the poll is now up, so get your votes in for that one for Bed Shitter of the Week, and we will announce that at the end of the stream. Obviously, the big news for this game week, and well, today, to be honest, it did break earlier this afternoon. Double Game Week 28 has now been confirmed, and there are some very, very tasty fixtures in there. Bournemouth, obviously, are going to be playing Sheffield United at home, plus Luton at home, and Luton on the other hand are going to be playing Crystal Palace away and Bournemouth away. Jake, what is your kind of initial thoughts after seeing this double game week announced?
I think it's like we've said just before this stream. I think it's complete. Like you go in fishing, you throw in that bait, and that bait is Dominic Solanke, isn't it? Because he's such an obvious pick there, and of course, so many people are going to go for the captaincy. I think you'd be really foolish if you've got Solanke not to captain him, because there's just no clearer option. But then is it just going to be one of those? It reminds me of Emmanuel Dennis a few years ago when he had that double.
Josh King as well.
Yeah, like one of them got sent off, I swear, in the first
Dennis.
one.
Dennis got sent off in the first game.
What's the Burnley striker called earlier on in the season?
Wout Weghorst as well last year.
Yeah, Lyle Forster. That was it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or Foster. Yeah, he decided to get sent off right at the end of his first game. So, yeah, it just screams of that. But realistically, it's got to be Bournemouth. You've got to be backing them in both games. They've been absolutely immense, especially at home. And Dominic Solanke's been at the forefront of that. So I feel like if you don't have Solanke in that week, I think you'll be in the minority for sure. And I think people may even be tempted to triple captain there.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Would you, right now, you know Haaland's got a double in 25 with Chelsea and Brentford at home, but now Dominic Solanke's got Sheffield United and Luton at home. Who are you picking? Because realistically, if Haaland pops off, you've got to hope Dominic Solanke does something amazing. But if Haaland blanks and you've still got that chip kind of lingering around, is it a good option, do you think?
100%. Definitely is. I don't know what your knowledge of potential future double game weeks is with like teams that progress in the FA Cup even more. I don't know if it goes back to the weekend games. I don't know about games potentially being postponed and causing from like maybe City having another double game week, which may favour them ever so slightly more. I don't know. But on paper, from what we've got with all the doubles, I would say Bournemouth is actually ever so slightly more favourable. I know City can slap any team, and I know I'm finally accepting that Chelsea don't seem to be all hyped up, even in an attacking threat at the moment. So I feel like you can't really argue against triple captain and Haaland. I think the only thing I'd say may go against him is just the fact that he's just getting back. I think it's a real opportunity this weekend. We've said last game week that it was maybe the last chance for you to not have to have Haaland in your team against Brentford. And of course, he only got the assist.
Yeah.
So I feel like people that will have stuck with their guns on the likes of maybe Watkins, if they were lucky, and they were maybe debating taking him out or someone like that. For Haaland, I think it was the wise decision in hindsight, of course, not to bring him in straight away. Now, I do think is the time to bring in Haaland. And I think this weekend will just go to show whether it is worth putting that triple captain token on him for the following game week, or whether it's maybe one of those things where you actually can still think maybe Solanke's that better shout.
I get that. I get that. Do you think potentially there's any other assets from Bournemouth that you think might be worth investing in? We're going to look at Luton a little bit later on with their double game week 25 coming up, so we've got a section for them. But Bournemouth, outside of Solanke, do you think there's anyone else?
Well, I think we had this. I think someone in the chat did comment. Was it? I don't know how to pronounce his name. Was it Krocic or something like that? Their fullback that they have.
Yeah.
And I think we had a little joke about it. But I actually haven't done much research into Bournemouth's defensive assets and how much they keep a clean sheet and how much they like produce anything in an attacking threat. But I mean, in a game, in two home games, Sheffield United and Luton, it's the best chance you're going to get of a Bournemouth clean sheet or two. So maybe, I don't know if like people are thinking of wild carding or something in the gap between now and game week 28, maybe having just that sub keeper as the Bournemouth lad or going for someone defensive. That might be another option. I think, other than Solanke, I think it's a little bit of a risk in the attacking options because they're more prone to be subbed off, rotated. I've learned that the hard way by having Semenyo. He can't last 60 minutes for the life of him. I think recently Kluivert's shown a little bit more about him, so I feel like he might be ever so slightly the next person that I'd maybe recommend. But other than Solanke, I think it may even be because of the game weeks, because of just how green they are for a team like Bournemouth. I think maybe it's somewhere where you'd maybe go, oh, maybe I should bring in a centre half or a fullback or a goalkeeper. The amount of times I've said maybe in that sentence is crazy.
Well, I'm just looking now. I've obviously got Bournemouth stats up for this season and their highest points for their players. Dominic Solanke, obviously clear, 110 points for him. Then it's Neto, the goalkeeper, with 75. Tavernier with 65, Sensei with 59, and then after that, there's no one really putting up anything amazing. Christie, but he plays every single game, 2 assists. Semenyo, your best mate. Yeah, there's just not too much, I think, in terms of quality. I probably would say a defender is the only other
Sensei
area.
does pop up with the odd goal, I think.
Yeah. 2 goals, I think it
How
is
much
for him.
is Neto?
Neto is 4.6, so if you are on the lookout for another goalkeeper, Neto is
not
potentially an option.
look. Yeah, especially if, like I said, you're doing a wild card in the next few game weeks.
Yeah, I think that could be a very worthwhile option as well. Right, we will come on to talk about Luton and their potential players as well a little bit later on. But I definitely think this double game week is going to impact quite a few people's potential plans for the next few weeks. So just making you aware of that. So do keep it noted in your diaries or wherever you put your FPL kind of knowledge. Maybe your brain.
Diaries or your brain, whatever you like.
Exactly. We are going to move on to Jake's points for game week 23. Jake, we're not going to spend too long on this week because we've got a lot to get through, but talk us through what went well, what didn't go so well in game week 23 for you.
I think it's quite straightforward. I think on the whole, not a lot did go well, and I was pulled out the gutter massively by Phil Foden. One way that I didn't captain him, but I never would have done. I don't think my mind even considered him. It's a bit of a shame, really, that I was so quick to look at the De Bruyne or Haaland option, and I went for Haaland in the end. At least he got an assist to get me to sneak into double figures with the captaincy armband. But yeah, Foden would have been the clear and obvious captain in hindsight. And then other than that, it was Saka. Saka loves a goal against Liverpool. He's scored quite a few times, especially at the Emirates. So I feel like that was definitely worthwhile having him in the team. And then other than that, not really much to write home about. It didn't help that I had players that were pretty much cancelling each other out, especially the Liverpool and Arsenal game, and it went the way of Arsenal. So I haven't got too many complaints with the overall performance. I think the big surprise where things could have gone differently are the Newcastle game. I brought Botman in, and of course already had Dubravka, and I don't think many people would have expected that to be a 4-4 draw. So I feel like it could have gone a different way, but I think me, like a lot of other people, may have underestimated Luton up until this game week just gone.
Yeah, I agree with that point. What idiot recommended Botman, eh?
Well, for the long run, I do think Newcastle are still well within their rights to get a few clean sheets in the next few weeks. So I don't think that's a negative way to look at things. Like I said, I think Luton are just playing out their skin at the moment. They're playing really freely, and like we'll come on to when we talk about Luton, like it just seems to be everyone has underestimated them, and quite frankly, they've just gone, fuck it, we're just going to play football.
Yeah, it does seem like they're in that little bit of a kind of purple patch at the moment. They are probably going to have a dip off at some point, but they're putting in performances and results as well that are probably, with points deductions on the way, going to probably keep them in the Premier League, which I think is a huge fairy tale kind of story, and something that I think a lot of kind of lower league fans like myself will be, admiring, because it wasn't, 6 years ago we were playing Luton at Mansfield. Now they're playing Premier League football, potentially, surviving this season as well. So it is a nice fairy tale, and I hope they do keep up this good form till the end
Will
of
you
the
be
season.
in the Luton fan league? Will you sacrifice Brentford of this Dale?
I might do, I might bin off Brentford, get me sent in the Luton League. You know what I mean? There might be even less people in that one for me to have a pop at. But overall, it didn't go great for you, Jake, but you did have some standout performers. Phil Foden on Monday night must have made you quite happy.
So he just saved my bacon a little bit. It would have been a real shameful show this really for me. I don't think I would have shown my face again.
He'd have just been like, "Yeah, Tom, I'm ill tonight.
Yeah.
I can't do it."
The legs really aggravated me.
Yeah. I'm trying to work out what you would have got without Foden, popping off. Not good. Not
No,
good
it
in
would
the
be
slightest.
half of average. I still didn't make average even with Foden's 20 points.
You'd have been on 31 if my maths isn't correct. If Foden just played.
Pretty something along those lines, yeah. Not what you want, really, is it?
Not indeed. Right, let's move on to game week 24. This is how your team is currently looking. Obviously, no transfers made. But what are the initial thoughts going into game week 24, Jake? Where's your mind at?
So, like I said, with the Botman transfer, I don't think that's a terrible place for Newcastle to go. Of course, Forest don't seem to be as easy to roll over since Nuno's taken charge. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. But I don't really feel like there's much else to really look for in a defensive option, and especially when I've got Disasi, who can't seem to keep a clean sheet or even keep the ball out of his net with his own feet. And I've got Diego Carlos in a game, which is quite tricky. Then again, of course, Villa do seem to be just a bit of a dark horse at home, don't they, when they're playing the big sides? I say the big sides. Aware of the fact that I'm including United into that. But like United have slightly hit a little bit of form. But I do feel like Villa will be too much for them. God knows how that score will end, though. Jota and Darwin, home to Burnley. I've just got to hope for the best there. Surely they've got to bounce back at home to Burnley. Saka against West Ham, I'm happy with. Kudus, he seems to be a threat against everyone. I know he was quite poor against United because the rest of the team were as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can have some kind of response. But it is a derby. They do like causing a bit of mayhem. And of course, Arsenal they might be a little bit drunk from their title celebrations last weekend. So hopefully West Ham can do something there. And then, of course, I've got Foden and Haaland. Don't have any plans to get rid of Haaland because I'd be surprised if Pep did after that performance. Um, when I say it out loud, I said it just before the stream. I was a bit worried about my team, but when I say it out loud, the City and the Liverpool lads you've got to back really. Um, and Saka and Kudus, it's just one of those. But I feel like if it's not 0-0, one of them will probably get a goal or assist.
Yeah.
And then the defence, it could work either way with the Forest Newcastle. I do think there's a chance Villa could win that game 1-0 as well against United. So that'd be nice for Carlos because he played against Sheffield. So it'd be nice to see him survive another game, especially if Cons is out. And then Disasi, he might be the man that has to go. But then again, my bench is really, really weak at the moment. I know on the screen I've just seen that you've got Carlos on the bench, but I've got Pinnock on the bench and I've got Semenyo on the bench, along with Charlie Taylor. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going to go with this transfer because ideally I'd like to just make a nice clean sweep. But saying it out loud, like I've just said, I think my attacking options are quite nice.
They are indeed. Sorry, mate. FPL Focal has just joined the chat. Well, thank you very much for stopping by, man. Appreciate that. Hope you enjoyed the content that you do see from me and my good friend Jake. For you, I think transfer-wise, who are you thinking taking out? Because I think I would take Kulusevski out this week.
Would you? Well, that was someone that I feel like the reason I've ignored Kulusevski week in, week out, it's just been because of the fact that it's Spurs and they're going to win games, etc. And there were other players that are more important to take out who I knew would just be a failure. But Kulusevski's doing absolutely nothing for me.
Well, obviously South Korea went out of the Asian Cup as well, so Son's gonna be back. So that again, the amount of attacking talent they've obviously got Werner now, Richarlison's on form. They've still got Brennan Johnson kicking about as well. So there's a lot of players there realistically. Is there anyone that you thought potentially of replacing him with, or would you like some suggestions?
Oh, Tom, go to town, mate. Go to town because, of course, I am aware of the fact that there's that double game week in a week's time. So then it'd be nice. But I've of course kind of got my Liverpool 2 players because I don't want to have too many because, of course, they'll miss the following game week. Then I've got Disasi who's going to miss that game week in 3 weeks, but I can worry about that closer to the time. But then Kulusevski, did you say Tottenham are one of the teams that don't have a game, or do they?
No, they blank in 26.
They do.
Yes.
So taking him out does make sense. It's just a shame that I can't really commit to someone for that game week 28 double because I don't fancy any of the midfielders. So yeah, go to town, mate.
Can you do Kulusevski up to KDB?
Let's have a little look, shall we? I do have money in the bank, to be fair.
I'm just thinking with obviously the double as well. Would mean you're going triple City for that week, but I mean it's a pretty good double.
I can afford him with 2 million to spare.
Oh, okay then. I'd probably say that's probably my top one. Good fixture this week, then the double, then Bournemouth, and then by that point you probably want to sell him to maybe Son. Someone like that after that.
Son or Salah. It depends how Salah does when he comes back, isn't it?
Exactly. So, there's a little shout here. KDB, I think that's a pretty good one. Maybe a Wolves boy, if you're tempted by them.
Pedro Neto's being good. The only thing about him is he does really well and someone brings him in and he gets injured, doesn't he?
Yeah, Hwang obviously back from international duty as well, on penalties.
Nice.
You've got Garnacho if you want to go for the cheaper route.
Don't fancy United, like I said, against Villa. I feel like that might just be a little bit too much for them, just based on the team's performances this season. I could be wrong, but yeah, FPL Focal's fully supporting you with the Kulu to KDB.
It's just quality advice. What can I say? I'm handing that out all the time on this stream.
Would you stick with? So of course I've got Disasi, Botman, and I've got Diego Carlos. Would you stick with that, or would you be more?
Would you not play Pinnock? I think I'd just play Pinnock. They are really bad at the back at the moment. I think it's like 2 clean sheets in the past 12 games for Brentford. Something absolutely appalling. But
Diego Carlos, home to United. They beat Villa. They beat Arsenal. They beat City, both 1-0 at home. That's the only reason. In my head, I'm like, could it be another 1-0?
Could be. Maybe.
I feel like splitting hairs on those two, though, really, aren't we?
Yeah, realistically, like if one keeps a clean sheet, he does. Villa are pretty good at home. You know what? I think it's just a flip of a coin, whichever way you feel. To be honest, I do get your argument about obviously Villa being quite good at home, pretty good record as well this season against top six sides. So
I think it'd be ever so slightly different if Pinnock was at home.
agreed. And if Brentford were kind of the defence that they've been for the
Weren't
past
shite.
2 seasons, well, yeah, pretty much. If Brentford weren't shite at defending, then I think it'd be a completely different story, to be honest. But yeah, overall, I think Kulu to KDB is the move this week, mate.
Yeah, agreed. And I feel like the next question I had is, I know I'm shooting a little bit ahead of time, but I feel like this might help a few people out.
Yeah.
Very minor people probably who don't already have Solanke. But I'm looking at this. So Bournemouth have Fulham next.
Yeah.
Would you bring him in when they've got Newcastle away and City home straight after that, or would you wait 3 weeks?
Well, I think for people that don't have Darwin, obviously you've got Darwin. I think Darwin would be the striker that I'd probably go for this week.
Yeah.
Get the double. Then in 26, you can either just not have a playing player or bring Dominic Solanke in for City at home. It's not the ideal situation, but I think that's probably the way that I would play it.
Yeah, fair enough. Because then he's set for, oh my God, there's some really nice fixtures for Bournemouth even after the double.
Yeah. There's some very, very tasty fixtures, isn't there? Everyone's just going to go from triple City and triple Liverpool straight to triple Bournemouth and Luton.
Triple Bournemouth and Luton. How serious is Adebayo? Do you know?
How serious? What do you mean? Like how good is he?
Wasn't he injured for quite a while?
No.
Oh. Well, that shut me down. Well, in that case, there's another player there for the double game week, isn't there?
Yes, yeah, there is, mate. Unless we're thinking of different players, I don't think he's been out.
The striker for Luton that scored a hat trick.
Yeah.
I'm having a look.
Yeah, you go and have a look. Go and have a look, because I could be wrong on this one. Oh, mate, you've had my pants down here.
Yeah, I actually don't think I have, to be fair. I think you might be right. I think you might be right to be like, what the hell are you talking about, Jake?
Before we move on to my team and my points for Game Week 23 and Game Week 24, let's answer some of your guys' questions. Matthew 2 says, I'm kind of on a crazy idea. Keeping Solanke and Tony and Watkins, not buying Haaland. Wow. It's a big call, that. It's a big call to go without Haaland for that double.
They've both got tricky game weeks as well coming up. I know Tony's got that double, but my word, that double's not the most mouth-watering. I do get why you'd keep Tony. I do get that, especially with the double, but it depends. It depends who the third player is. But yeah, not having Haaland could be something that he comes to regret.
Yeah, I think especially for that double game week, I imagine his effective ownership is going to be close to like 200% with the amount of people that are going to be using the triple captainship on him. So it could be a real big disaster of a week for you if you don't have Haaland. And if you're not even captaining him or triple captaining him, you're still going to miss out on potentially a huge score. Or even if he doesn't, if he does get that huge score and you don't have him, the rank effect that could have could be absolutely detrimental and pretty much probably write your season off, to be honest.
Yeah, agreed.
Is Areola out is the next question. I had a look the other day and covered it in my preview video. That was on Monday. Doesn't look like we've got an update. I'm just reading now an article about it.
There's no flag on him, is there?
There is no flag on him, but obviously came off at half time. David Moyes' comments on Monday were it was a precautionary thing. What's this article saying here? Took a hit to the head. It was just a precautionary measure. It just made sense. There was nothing wrong, but we just wanted to... no point in risking him. So I think he should be fine and available for that one. Obviously, we are going to get a Moyes press conference ahead of the deadline as well. So I think he should be fine. I won't worry about that one too much.
Nice. I can't find any information on Adebayo being injured. I think it might have been a dream I've just accidentally brought into reality.
Brilliant. And then St. Ledger's asked Neto versus Kaminski. I think that's how you pronounce it. The Luton goalkeeper. Who would you rather have, Jake, if you had to pick one of the two?
Well, I think Neto's got quite a few points for as much for saves, but for clean sheets. And I feel like the clean sheets are more likely to fall Bournemouth's way with them being at home to Sheffield United and Luton. However, Kaminsky, like whenever I've seen him play, especially at Kenilworth Road, of course they're not playing there. He has been in top form. He does look like a really good goalkeeper. And when you think they're going to Palace, they're going to be missing Elise. I know he's injured for a fact.
Nice.
And I don't know how long Eze is going to be out for. But if both of them are injured, Palace are absolutely shocking. So there's a chance of a clean sheet there. And then going to Bournemouth, of course, it is just a toss-up. But I do feel like Bournemouth would be too much for them. So I would probably go for Neto, just purely for the fact that they've got 2 home games against 2 away games.
Yeah, just to add to that as well, if you're looking for kind of the data side, Luton on 19th for expected goals conceded, and
Nice.
Bournemouth at 8th. So
There we go.
there's a clear difference. I think, like I said earlier in the stream, Luton, are just in a really, really good purple patch at the moment. So I think longer term, we might see these results kind of tail off and them concede a few more goals, especially if you're putting up data like that. It's not great, to be honest.
Kaminsky is 0.1 cheaper. That's the only thing really going for Kaminsky, isn't he? 4.5 million.
He's obviously got that extra double, hasn't he, in 25, but
True.
it's not a great one. It's not a great one.
No.
And a blank in 26.
Yeah, you should stick to Neto if you're going to bring a goalkeeper out of those two, and I would say.
Fair enough. Big calls from you, lad. Big calls from you. I love it.
Big calls from a turkey in a bush as well. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have seen that. Brother has got balls. Let's just put it that way. Right, let's move on to my points for game week 23 has just gone. Game week 23. Again, very similar to Jake. Absolute disaster for me, to be honest, this week. I think we fell about 118,000, something like that. Like, honestly, in terms of rank, this has probably been my worst week of the season. Absolutely detrimental. I thought we were starting to cook, made our way into the top 100k, starting to get some good points on the board. Then this absolute disaster. Back-to-back red arrows. Captaincy wise, I think I did still get the right decision. I never was considering Watkins. Palmer, though, for me, he did it. He did the business. Goal and a bonus point as well. Pretty happy with that one. Defense, absolutely shambolic. I think the less said, the better. 1 from Areola, -1 for Gabriel, 1 for Konza, 1 for Trent. Not great. Other midfielders, Gordon obviously came off at half-time. Not great. Bowen did nothing. De Bruyne with an assist. Probably could have got a little bit more. Haaland, again.
He could have got a second assist, couldn't he?
Yeah, very easy. Watkins was obviously the big hitter. Congratulations to people that captained Watkins this week. Fair play to you. I didn't think he would be able to kind of do this or have this in his locker, but he has, and he's proven me wrong. So that one was a little bit unfortunate, but like I said, I was never considering it. So I think going Palmer, at least Palmer got an attack in return, got himself a bonus point as well. So it's not the worst. But moving on to the bench, that is where the pain really starts to kick in. Garnacho first sub, 16 points. It's
a little bit painful, isn't it?
Just a little bit is an understatement, to be honest. I was just getting messages off our like mutual friend and my flatmate Sean. And he was like, "Yes, get in Garnacho." He was like, "I bet you're happy." And I was out at the time, and I was just like, "How do I tell them that I've got him first sub on my bench?" Just absolute, not fun in the slightest, to be honest. But to be fair, I think it was about 163,000 other managers benched Garnacho as well, so I wasn't alone in my pain. But
shout out to your brother, by the way. Have you seen his team?
Oh yeah, he's gone top of the points league as well, like absolutely smashing it. Had a
Foden,
crazy week.
Richarlison, Watkins captain. That is insane.
Yeah. He's absolutely cooking, isn't he?
He's been taking your advice and run with
it. He watches the stream. He comes in. He watches the videos. Does his team. I'm the idiot over here, not taking my own advice.
It's because he copied you to a T that week, so now you're trying to send him down the path, and you've just got your head in a fry.
Yeah. So shout out to Alfie. He does have a podcast as well. If you want to go and check that out, All in Good Sport. I was a special guest on it one week, so there you go. If you want to go and listen to what I do for a job and why we started this channel and all that good stuff, there you go. A little bit of maybe late night listening if you're a bit lonely this evening.
Just as you go to sleep. Just as you sleep.
You get to hear my... I don't know how I'd describe my accent, but Midlandy.
Yeah, but not nothing Brummy, lad. You don't have to worry about that.
No. I'm not Brummy, but like just a bit like common. Right. Let's move on to my points for... Not my points, my team. There we go. I'm just flicking through stuff. There we go. There it is. Let's move on to my team for Game Week 25. And as you can see, lot of flags. People are starting to mount up. The injuries, the bodies, they're starting to pile around the curb, to be honest. It's like the plague in my team. Konza's obviously out for 3 to 4 weeks. Anthony Gordon, it is looking quite positive. It was just a twist on the ankle, so hopefully we can get some news from Eddie Howe. Hopefully he's fit, so that's one less transfer to worry about. Colwell, no real update on him, but I do want to get him out because Chelsea are pretty appalling. And then old good 1 point Charlie on the bench as well. He's just got a flag for the fun of it. Other players, though, I'm pretty happy with the rest of the team, I think. Trent, obviously, the past few weeks has been disappointing, but I'm going to hold him for the double. Palmer, very, very much probably his last few weeks in the team before he goes, with Chelsea having a blank. KDB, Haaland, pretty self-explanatory. Solanke's going to stay. Watkins has to stay off that haul. Gabriel, some good fixtures coming up for Arsenal as well, despite the fact that they don't have any doubles, so he can stay. In terms of transfers this week, what I'm thinking is bringing in Doherty from Luton. I've been tweeting about it all day, but I think Doherty for Colwell, I think makes sense. Obviously, good fixture in Game Week 24. They play Sheffield United at home. Then they have the double in 25. It's not the greatest double for Luton, realistically, but at least it's a double. No fixture in 26, which is a bit of a pain. But obviously now that double game week 28 has been confirmed, so another double for him there. Then they also might feature in blank game week 29. There's obviously a few factors that have to go their way. I think if it's Forest lose tonight, they could play in that blank game week, or Luton do something else, or yeah, there's something. I can't quite remember off the top of my head what the kind of factors are, but everything was seeming to kind of work into place, to be honest. I tweeted it out yesterday and I was like, if the double's confirmed, I'll bring him in. It's now been confirmed, so I think that is the transfer we're going to make. Doherty for Colwell, I think is what I'm going to do. Any changes you'd make to that team, Jake?
I think that's a solid decision to go for. It's a nice rogue one as well. I don't know what his ownership is like, but I can't imagine it'd be something terribly high, especially right this second. I assume that will rise as the games go on, as they get their doubles played. But yeah, I think he'll just be hitting the rise just before it's risen. So you might sneak a few, and like you said, this game week is quite favourable for them, especially at home when they have been quite strong, as strong as a Luton side can be. To be fair to them, they're very what's the word? I guess they're quite hearty, aren't they? They're very passionate, and they're a really good team. And Doherty seems to be one of those that's at the forefront of that, coming from the back. I don't think you'd be really relying on them to keep a clean sheet necessarily, but against Sheffield United, it's the best chance they're going to get to keep one. I think other than that, I think your team looks all right. You've got, I don't know what you think about having a Liverpool attacker in for these next few games, but then does that put you in a little bit of a situation for the blank? Is that what you're worried about?
No. I have been looking at Diego Jota and obviously Phil Foden. Those are probably the two that I am considering. I might maybe go Darwin, but I think it is between Diego and Jota.
I don't think you can take any of those transfer strikers out, though, can you?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a difficult one with them. So I'm thinking more along the lines of either Bowen, or if we get news that Gordon's out, Foden and Jota kind of in. That is kind of where my head's at the moment.
Yeah, fair enough.
But it's all dependent on what. Again, there's another kind of situation where West Ham might not blank, I think, in 29. So again, I might have to keep Bowen for that run. Again, dependent on results tonight and FA Cup further results.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't think, to be fair, the bottom line is I don't think you can take any of those strikers out. I know Solanke might have a few tough games in the next few weeks, but I don't think it's worth taking him out. It's only if you don't have him straight away, like maybe I don't. It's not worth bringing him in necessarily, but I do feel like I will miss out on a couple of goals whilst I don't have him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Watkins, Slankin, Haaland's solid enough. It's not worth you bringing Nunes in there, I'd say. But yeah, it's not a bad shout going for someone for maybe Gordon, maybe like a Foden, like you said. But um, in this immediacy, I would definitely say Doherty's a solid shout.
Yeah. The only other kind of issue I was thinking is, do I bench Garnacho again?
It's not like that he's playing against West Ham at home again. Though West Ham can be quite stinky. Villa are pretty. They're pretty consistent when it comes to a home game, aren't they? The fans really get behind them. What time of day is it? That does have an effect in my opinion. If it's
It's
3
not the
o'clock,
it's not the early kickoff. Haaland's the early kickoff.
but it's not a 3 o'clock Saturday, is it? Either?
Good question. Very good question. Let me load the fixtures up for this week.
No, it's not. Is it a Sunday? Oh, it's Sunday 4:30, lad. It screams of a good atmosphere.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like Garnacho on the bench isn't a bad shout. And I think if it comes back to bite you on the arse, I don't think you can really blame the situation because I feel like Gordon and Bowen are likely to score against anyone. Garnacho, I think he relies on the rest of the team having a decent game.
Okay.
And I feel like at Villa Park, it might just be a little bit much for them. Of course, in my head, I'm being selfish and hoping to manifest a 1-0 win so Diogo Carlos gets a clean sheet.
Well, you'd hope, mate. I mean, I would be in the same boat if Ezri Konsa was fit, but brother didn't fancy it, unfortunately. Right, before we move on to the next section, we do have a few more questions. Katie's asked, when are you thinking of triple captaining? Game week 25 or game week 28? I think I am still game week 25, to be honest. Solanke has tempted me, and there are a few factors that have maybe made me rethink about Haaland. Jake brought it up earlier, obviously recovering from an injury. They also have the Champions League games either side of that, so they're going to be playing Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday. So that's something to consider. Potentially maybe Haaland misses out or plays reduced minutes in one of the games. So yeah, I want to see what sort of minutes he plays this week.
What about Foden?
I mean, it's not out of the realms of possibility, is it? Obviously, in the form of his life, putting in some cracking performances. But
if he puts in another solid performance this weekend, then I might be tempted. Yeah, I might be.
I feel Dominic Solanke's more of a your type of triple captain, to be honest, lad.
He is, but I've ignored him all season. So for me to bring him in and triple captain him, he'd turn around to the camera and put his fingers up. And score a goal or something.
Puts it in his own goal and just goes,
yeah.
Shh.
Semenyo, meanwhile, slaps.
Nice. Pranav, hopefully I've pronounced that correctly. Apologies for that if I haven't. Last week I took out Foden out for Gordon for a -4. I'm in the mud. Oh, mate. That's a honker. That is a honker. I didn't tell you to do that, did I? I hope not.
No, we both said it's definitely not worth taking Foden out just yet. It was one of those, it was like, we don't recommend bringing him in because of De Bruyne and Haaland being back, and I feel like we can stand on our high horses there and be like, you know what? Who would have thought Foden would get a hat-trick? But I definitely did say, because I was someone that was also in the same boat, owning Foden. It's not worth taking him out yet because he's on good form. It's unlikely he's going to get benched. So we said wait a week and let's just see how things go. So, unfortunately, Pranav, you should have listened to us.
Well, there's some words of wisdom, isn't it? Listen to what we have to say. We always speak facts 100% of the time.
Yeah, we've never fucked up.
No, never led anyone down any paths or any kind of lies or anything like that. Never.
To be fair, though, for Pranav's sake, if he's never listened to us, he's probably never had Craig Dawson. He's probably never had Thiago Silva. True. So he's probably been all right in some aspects.
Final question before we move on to the next section. Do you think it's risky to go without Haaland? I feel we answered this one a little bit earlier and we both said yes. Pretty much down to his effective ownership, but it's going to be like close to 200% that game week. Not having him and not captaining him in that week could be detrimental.
You say 200%?
Yeah, for EO.
200% ownership?
No, effective ownership.
Oh, I thought you were like, it's going to be 200%.
No. Not 200% ownership, lad. That'd be silly. That would be very silly. Right, let's move on to the next section. We are going to talk about, I feel we've kind of touched on a few of these players, but arguably these are a list of, I think, probably the most popular transfers in ahead of double game week 25 and game week 24 this week. I've excluded Haaland because I think that one's pretty self-explanatory and you should realistically have him. But we do have Foden, KDB, Jota, Tony, and Darwin. We are going to obviously start off with Phil Foden first. Hat-trick hero against Brentford. Jake, would you recommend him to people?
I mean, I would, especially with the double, especially with the good run of fixtures, but it is a tricky situation. I'm happy that I'm in the situation where I've had Foden for a few weeks and I can just at least accept it if he has a blank or pulls a blank or gets benched or has a poor week or two, because I'm not wasting a transfer on his potential blank or whatever. But after scoring a hat-trick, I completely understand why people would want to bring him in and be tempted by him. I think if you can bring in one of the big hitters like Haaland or De Bruyne instead, then of course I'd still probably go for those two. But yeah, I feel like having Foden, having a trio of City attackers, and those three being that trio, I think you can't get much stronger than that coming into these next few weeks.
Yeah, all right, I get that. I was going to ask you this question anyway, but obviously I feel you kind of brushed on it there. If you were to pick between Foden and KDB right now to go and get one in for this week, who would you be selecting?
The thing is, I don't think I can look at just this week. I think if I had neither of them and I had the funds for both, I would bring in De Bruyne purely for the rest of the season, purely for the fact that he is going to be a consistent hauler, and you would imagine he's going to play more on the whole. Yeah, I think I'll go for De Bruyne. Not for this week specifically, but it could be that this week it pays dividends more than Foden coming in. But I think if I had neither of them, I would opt for De Bruyne purely on the fact that this game week's great, but also the rest of the season it's Kevin De Bruyne season. You'd imagine now.
You'd hope so. Pretty good stats from his return from injury. 1 goal, 3 assists, 24 points. Pretty good going, isn't it?
Not too shabby, yeah.
Yeah, not too shabby indeed. Moving away from Manchester City over to Diego Jota, a player that you do own. Been in pretty good form. 4 goals, 3 assists over the past 5 game weeks. Would you think he's potentially a little bit more kind of, I don't know how to describe this, but a little bit higher up on people's transfer radars? Maybe over the likes of Foden or KDB, or should he be a little bit less?
I think he should be a bit less. I think you've got to bear in mind just how the fact that we're comparing Liverpool and City are a lot more inevitable than Liverpool are. Liverpool should be pretty much able to come back to winning ways and kick off again, because a game at the Emirates is not going to be easy for an attacker to score like a banker of a return in comparison to Foden playing at Brentford. But I feel like Jota is a good person to have in the team. I think the only reason that I'd probably opt more for Foden or De Bruyne is, like we've said, Jota's going to have, as much as he's going to have a double, he's going to have a blank. And I think you have to be wary of how many players you're going to have in that team already that are going to potentially blank. If you can afford to bring Jota in and put him on the bench, or you plan to get rid of him for that week, then so be it. But I do feel like you've got to be wary of the fact that you may have an accumulation of players that end up on the bench, because it's not just Liverpool that blank. There's Spurs, there's Chelsea, there's Luton. I mean, who knows off the top? Like, when you say those 4 teams, I'd imagine there's a good chance that people won't have more than 3 of those players altogether, because a lot of people are considering getting rid of Chelsea. Luton are only just now starting to become a team of consideration, and Spurs have been missing a good, well, they've been missing their talisman, and they've been missing Maddison until of late. So maybe they won't have that many players, and if that's the case, Jota isn't a bad shout. He's a reasonably priced shout, and of course, as like the form he's in and the fact that Liverpool have players that have been missing, he's more likely to start the games and be less of a rotation risk than Foden is. Of course, Salah's going to be coming back at some point now, so you've got to be wary of that. And then, of course, the Europa League will hit in. But Yeah, I don't really know which way to look at it. I'm saying one thing and then saying another thing to look at both sides of things. But I think overall, you've just got to look at City's fixtures and the fact that they have a fixture in that game week 26.
Yeah.
And I think that does push Foden and De Bruyne over the edge.
Fair enough. I think you kind of brought it all together right at the end. Very nicely. The final two players are Tony and Darwin. I feel that you're probably going to end up with one or the other. Gun to your head, Jake. Which one would you pick?
I think it's got to be Darwin. I think his price is cheaper, is it?
It is.
That is 8.1, isn't it? I don't know what I was imagining that would be. If that wasn't an 8, that's a 3. So I'm being having a bit of a blonde moment. But yeah, I think Darwin has to be the one at the moment. Then again, of course, the only thing I can look at as devil's advocate would be the fact that Tony doesn't have that blank. But Tony's double is really difficult. Tony is also someone that is considerably more clinical, even though he's not been playing professionally for however many months. But Darwin, if he's fit, will play and he will cause chaos game after game after game. He has so many opportunities. Tony, like all like praise to him. He will score the chances he gets. More like I'd say 9 times out of 10. Darwin, maybe 6 times out of 10, maybe 5. But he gets those 10 chances, whereas Tony doesn't. I feel like I'd be more inclined to go for Darwin there, purely for the run Liverpool have. I know there is that blank. Maybe you could be tempted to bring Tony in then. Maybe that's the time where you'd look elsewhere. But if you don't want to have to worry about the blank, of course, if it's simply down to having a player that plays every single game week, then Tony makes the team. But for me, gun to my head, Darwin is the man.
Fair enough. I think you've just got to look at, kind of to back your point up there, the expected goal involvement. Darwin's is the highest on this list. 5.51. I think around 4 of that is just from XG alone. So he is creating the chances. And I do feel out of all the players on this list, he's probably got the highest ceiling as well.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. But of course, like you can see also, Tony's only been back a couple of weeks and he's already hitting the ground running. So exactly. I can understand why you put Tony in. I don't think any fixture run necessarily stops you considering Tony. I think even if they're away to City, Liverpool, and let's say they had a double away to City and Liverpool, you'd still probably recommend having Tony in, because if Brentford have a chance, he's probably going to slot it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Right, let's answer some of your guys' question before we move on to today's final section and talk about Luton Town. Pranav says, brought Bell in for Konza. Should I bring Foden back in for a -4? I have Jota, KDB, Gordon, Palmer and Neto.
No. That team's looking good.
I don't think I would, unless maybe we get news about Palmer being out for a few weeks. Like if Palmer's out for a few weeks. Do you think it's
worth the -4 though? It depends who he's top, to be fair, as well.
I think longer term it could pay off, obviously with the double next week as well.
Yeah, well, like I said, if he's got, if like you say, Palmer.
Sorry, Gordon too. I mean, yeah.
Well, if Gordon's an injury doubt and he does get proven to be unavailable for the next few weeks, if he can, it'd be probably more beneficial to have a player to just play an extra striker. But it depends who he's got up front.
Yeah, I just think with minuses, they're more acceptable around double game weeks. I think you can get away with them a little bit more.
But it's not the double this week, that's the thing.
It's not, but I think you have to kind of look at it in terms of like a longevity type thing.
Fair enough.
Bringing in a player that has 4 fixtures over 3 weeks is probably worth a -4 at this kind of stage, in my opinion.
Fair play.
But we'll see. St. Ledger's asked, with Son and Salah back soon, realistically, how many premiums should we be aiming to get in? I mean, it's difficult to really say because the way that kind of the games are falling now and certain teams doubling, like, you know, realistically, most weeks you wouldn't have Luton and Bournemouth players in. But now we're probably going to have 1 or 2 of those kicking about. So I feel it's kind of hard to kind of justify how many premiums to have in when the top teams don't have the best fixtures after double game week 25. So a little bit of a hard one to call on that one.
Yeah, agreed. I think if you can have Kevin De Bruyne and Haaland, though, you're probably not doing too badly.
No, no, no. Keeping the money in certain areas as well is going to help your team for when those, more premium assets like Salah and Son are back and available. Right,
Yeah.
moving on to today's final section. It's going to be Luton. I never ever thought we'd talk about Luton on these streams, especially after they already had their double all the way back in game week 8. I thought that was it. I'd never see another Luton player in my team, but here we are. I've put 3 players on the screen. We did go through these yesterday in the FPL Experts video. There obviously is some other options. Kaminsky's been mentioned. Carlton Morris as well is a potential another option. He's on penalties for the side. But these 3 have been cooking over the past 5 game weeks. It is Doherty, it is Ross Barkley, and it is Adebayo. We're going to obviously start off by talking about Doherty, a player I'm looking to bring into my own team. And I think a very good transfer now that that double's been confirmed. Good fixture in game week 24 and a double in game week 25. And I think you'd probably agree as well, Jake.
Yeah, definitely. I think he does seem to be a good asset to have in the team with the fixtures coming up for Luton. And regardless of them having maybe the odd tricky game, they do seem to be a team that can create chances, and they do seem to be a threat from set pieces, which is something Doherty, I believe, takes the corners or the majority of them. I've definitely seen him take the odd set piece when I've watched the games. So that's a good chance for an attacking return, especially with the likes of Adebayo up top, who must be about 7'4". So I think he's a great shout to have in your team, especially with the amount of calamities and a lot of people's, well, mine and yours definitely, in our defensive line.
I agree with that. Ross Barkley, a name I never thought I'd see again kicking off in the Premier League, but pretty much this season been a very good player. Paul Merson obviously calling him a very, very good player indeed. Sign of the season, I think, was the words that he uttered in an interview this week. I mean, he's having a good season, but okay.
I think someone wanted him to get into the England team, didn't they?
Probably Paul Merson as well.
Probably.
Yeah. All right, Paul, we get it, pal. We get it. But yeah, and as an FPL asset, Jake, would you potentially consider him maybe if you need the money to get Haaland back in, say, this week? Do you think he potentially could be a nice enabler?
Possibly, especially with them playing Sheffield United. It's a nice week to enable that, especially if you don't want to take a minus, say, straight away. You want to just do something sensible, then maybe bring in Barkley in is the wise choice, and then you've got him for the double, you've got him for Sheffield United, and then you can bring Haaland in. With the funds that you've saved come the double game week and the following game week. So that is a good shout. He's also a good person to just keep an eye on, I think. I think if he keeps hauling, I think come the double game week that Luton get, he then may be someone you may want to just throw in, because he's someone that isn't necessarily expensive, is he? So he's just going to sit. He'll happily sit on the bench for a few game weeks if they have some tricky fixtures. And he's not someone that you'll have to worry about getting out to save money. So yeah, I think he's definitely someone to keep an eye on. And like you say, if you need to get some money to afford the likes of De Bruyne or Haaland, then Barkley's definitely an asset that you can consider. I think the only thing going against him is the midfield is still very much overpowered on fantasy, isn't it?
Definitely so. I do agree with that point. Obviously, a lot of people looking at Garnacho as their enabler, maybe if they're on the wild card as well. He's my enabler that has allowed me to obviously get Haaland and KDB in the side. If you had to pick between the two for the next few weeks, Barkley or Garnacho, who would you go for as that cheap midfield option?
Fixture difficulty rating. Let's just have a look and see what Man United have. United don't have a terrible run, to be fair. I know they've got Villa away this weekend. Then they've got Luton away and Fulham at home. Garnacho's ever so slightly cheaper, isn't he?
He's going to have a price rise tonight. I just got a notification for on my phone.
Oh, did he?
But they're both going to be 4.9 realistically, probably by deadline.
Fair enough. Well, I don't think either's a bad shout. I think the only thing that I'd say for both of them, Barkley is going to have that double coming up, so that's why you'd maybe lean towards him. And they do seem to be a team that are at least consistent. I know they get beat a few times or they don't win games, but that's just because it's Luton. But they are a team that are playing with a lot of passion, they're just a proper team. Whereas United can be a little bit hot and cold. I said this about Chelsea and they just went cold. but United can be a little bit up and down. They do seem to have hit a nice little bit of form finally for them, and Garnacho seemed to be at the forefront of that against West Ham. So it's not a bad shout to have, especially like I've said, they've got Luton, they've got Fulham in a sandwich of this game against Villa and City at home. I feel like you might be more inclined to go for Barkley for that double that he's got, but if you want to see, I do feel like Garnacho in the next 5 game weeks is more likely to get a higher goal or assist return than Barkley is, just purely because of the team that he's in. But I could be wrong, but I think on paper you'd probably back Garnacho to return more.
All right. I rate that. Adebayo, the final player, obviously scored that hat-trick. 2 goals as well in the past 5 game weeks as well to go along with that hat-trick. Pretty good data. Again, would he fit the enabler profile? Maybe if you're looking for a 2-striker formation, need that cheap option to free up a little bit of money, maybe for the KDB, maybe for the likes of when Son and Salah are back. Do you think he potentially could be an option?
Possibly, yeah, possibly. I think the issue that we've got now is that there are 3 or 4 very good shouts to have up front in Haaland, Solanke, Watkins, and Darwin. I'd probably say the 4.
Tony as well.
Tony as well, yeah, of course. So there are some really good strikers to have at the moment. So I think it does just depend. I think Adebayo is only something you consider as an enabler. If you are confident enough to take out one of those big hitters, because I don't feel like you're going to, if you've got, say, like I do, you've got Semenyo, you're not really going to take him out for Adebayo to save money. You're not saving money there, are you? So I feel like it's one of those things where, unfortunately, because of his position, you're not really going to want to do that unless you are simply looking at the long run and trying to have De Bruyne, Son, Salah, Saka, and someone else in midfield that are holding all of the points, all of the finances. Sorry. So yeah, I feel like it just depends, like you say, if you're willing to have maybe a two man strike force rather than bank on the 3. But personally, I would probably say you're going to want to have those 3 of those 4 really good players at the moment.
All right, here's a question then. Let's say you already have that 2-striker formation in place. You've got Haaland and maybe someone else, I don't know, like a Darwin or a Solanke or whatever. But you've currently got a dud forward like an Archer. You've only got a little bit of money in the bank left, just enough to go and get Adebayo. Do you think that's maybe worth it with their doubles coming up?
Possibly, but I think then is when you'd maybe look and see how much money you've got in your midfield and look at the likes of Barkley to then save you a bit of money, because then you can, like we've said, bring in someone like Solanke for that double game week, because that double game week really does benefit Bournemouth more than Luton, I would say. Yeah. That's not to say Adebayo won't return, but I think at least then you've got Barkley, who saved you a bit of money, who can be benched because you've got 4 midfielders still there that will be strong. But then you've got Haaland, Darwin, and Solanke, or Haaland, Watkins, and Solanke. I just think it would be quite important. It would be quite good to be able to afford Solanke as well for that double. And I think he'd be more important to have than Adebayo come that double game week.
Fair enough. I feel we've rounded off the Luton section very nicely indeed. Before me and Jake do finish up, we will try and answer some of your guys' questions. So if you do have any questions, get them in. As always, there will be a deadline stream at 9 o'clock on Saturday as well. And if you've enjoyed any of the content that you've seen on the channel today, maybe one of the videos or today's live stream, do hit that subscribe button, as we are trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Obviously, we did launch Bed Shitter of the Week at the start of the stream. Let's end the results and see who has won that one. And it is quite a comprehensive win this week. It is going to go to Esri Konza, 82% of the vote. I think it's pretty fair, isn't it?
Yeah, fair enough. I think I might have been the only vote there that's gone for Disasi.
I think you were the only person that owns Disasi, to be honest, man.
Yeah. I know YouTube have voted for their other player again.
Yeah. They can't do maths again, so thank you for that one. YouTube polls, as always, not accurate. Not accurate indeed. What questions have we had in? Let me have a look. Should I avoid Haaland early kickoff captain?
No.
Yeah.
I feel like he's the only person that can look Gandhi in the face and go, lad, I'm scoring regardless.
Yeah. Get out my way. I'm going to score. I think City's attack against Brentford was very fluid as well.
Yeah, home to Everton. I mean, Everton can be quite resolute, but no, I don't fancy them away to City.
Haven't they got the most clean sheets in the league at the moment?
Yeah, they hit a really good amount of run of form, but no, I don't fancy. It's at the Etihad. I really don't fancy them in that game.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. The big question for this week, as always, highest scoring game, Jake. Highest scoring game.
Oh, Bulls. No, I'm going to go for Liverpool Burnley. We're gonna respond in style
Yeah.
by losing 6-3 to Burnley.
I'm going to go Luton Sheffield United. That's got goals.
Yeah, fair
That's
enough.
got
Of course you are.
goals written all over it.
Hey, to be fair, Turkey in a bush makes a decent shout for a captain.
I was going to say that. Are you tempted maybe with Jota? Obviously, your Liverpool roots.
It
Burnley
does
at
take
home.
it away from that early kickoff because, like, as confident as you might be that Haaland would do things, it does. I feel like both of them could do quite well. To be fair, though, so I feel like it works both ways. Jota did score in the reverse coming off the bench, so like, he does have that on his belt. I don't know how it went at Goodison Park with City and Everton. But yeah, so did Darwin, to be fair. Maybe it's Darwin's time to finally stop hitting the bloody woodwork.
Agreed. We are going to leave it there, guys. Like I said, thank you very much for everyone who has been in today's preview stream. Massively appreciated by me and Jake. And like I said, there will be a deadline stream on Saturday. So if you want to come along for that, it would be massively appreciated by me. But yeah, thank you very much for watching today. Any final remarks from you, Jake?
No, Foden scored in the reverse is what I've just seen. Just a heads up. So if you want to throw another captaincy option in the books, there we go.
I think that's very nice. Very nice. Well, we'll see you next week. We will be live again for the preview stream on Wednesday night. It should be back in the regular 7 o'clock slot. So come along to that one. Like I said, the deadline stream on Saturday as well. But enjoy the rest of your week and see you on Saturday.